lost mine in the sand. Where will you stand?
And the travels continue for Hanok Young as let's see, I'm thinking Colorado, and I might even know pretty much exactly where you are there, but I won't tell anybody.
Yeah, you've got the GPS coordinates. I got it. I got it.
Yeah. So I heard you said you had a good meeting. You were down in Colorado Springs. Got to see
Yes.
some mutual friends of ours, some folks
Yeah.
that I have not seen in 20 years. But went well down there.
Yeah, yeah, it was most of my talks, my presentations this time have been with new congregations.
Hmm.
So that's been going great, really. Baruch Hashem, thank God.
Well, good. And to just give everybody an update, Hanok will be, I'm planning on picking him up at the airport tomorrow, and maybe even bringing him back to Franklin. I don't know. We'll see. Um, but you're going to be at Life Assembly this
Mhm.
coming Shabbat. We will be meeting in the downstairs of Bald Head Realty. Yes, that does exist. Bald Head Realty in the great metropolis of Franklin, North Carolina. There is limited seating, so if you're planning on coming, you're a visitor, please let me know. Send me an email. Also, he will be at Moss Memorial Baptist Church in Hayesville, North Carolina, on this coming Sunday, and then followed by Battlefield Assembly of Messiah in Rossville, Georgia. And that's going to be Hanok, something we enjoy doing normally is both of us can be speaking. We're going to do a little tag team over there.
That's great. And then that's followed up by House of David in Gloucester, Virginia.
There you go. Just moving on up in the world,
And
man.
maybe something in between there. I'll know more shortly. Anyway,
Oh, good. Okay. So what's
away we
happening,
go.
man?
Wow, it's kind of like again every day, it's like you're strapped in the roller coaster and you're with your friends and everything's cool. And then it starts going up, 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 up. And like the anticipation is building. And then it begins going down and taking you through all kinds of crazy things. When I read the news from home, this is exactly what I feel.
Yeah.
Everyone's, all anxious about Netanyahu being in America. And then it's like the moving pieces on a chessboard.
Hmm.
Um, is he meeting Biden? When is he meeting Biden? Is he meeting Harris? Is he meeting Trump? What's he going to say to Congress? All those kind of things. Netanyahu is the master showman. Um, and as I've been traveling and speaking to so many groups, everyone is asking me, like, what about him? What's he doing? And I keep hearing in the back of my head, because like I'm kind of plugged into soundtracks. Like I'm a walking Spotify of old music. And it's like, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. You're still, I mean, this is what's he going to say? I don't know. Now, um, he will likely focus on Iran and, kind of creating some kind of coalition against Iran because all of this is Iran. So I was trying to explain Hezbollah to someone the other day, and then I basically said Iran in Lebanon.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, I got it. Now, where this is going to wind up, I don't know. I was watching and reading and kind of looking into another area. That whole deal that is supposed to happen between Israel and Saudi Arabia
Hmm.
seems more likely now to happen than ever before.
Okay.
And it's coming from two angles simultaneously. One is the fact that Saudi Arabia remains petrified of Iran's military strength.
Mhm.
The fact that Israel flew a couple of thousand kilometers to bomb the heck out of the Houthis in Yemen sent a really positive signal to the Saudis.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting kicker, which ties in with American politics. The Saudis disdain Biden.
Mhm.
To sign a deal now with Israel, which would be a tremendous shot in the arm for us in terms of publicity, politically, whatever it might be, they're not going to do it. They're going to wait, assuming that Trump gets elected president. So that's kind of, like backdoor channels.
Okay.
I am repeatedly astounded by the news of demonstrations back in Israel of people, particularly the families of the poor hostages, who are demanding that Netanyahu ink a deal. And again, I cut Netanyahu no slack
Mhm.
ever, but I cannot see, without Hamas saying, let's sign this deal, that he can make a deal. He can't make a deal with himself.
I mean, you have sympathy for the hostages, the families. I got that. The report out today of one of the hostages was, explaining the things that she had seen, what had happened to her, what
Yeah.
happened to others around her. Yeah, it is a bad, bad situation. But at the same time, there is a greater, something greater. You got to win this war has to be won.
Yeah. Now, on that front, it's not getting a lot of publicity, certainly not in the American media, but Israel is really, really effectively wiping out Hamas,
Hmm.
which is tremendous. It appears that, there's a lot of back channel stuff going on. It appears the US, United Arab Emirates, and Israel met about post Gaza, post war, what's Gaza going to look like? Because we've never, in the almost 19 years that Gaza has been fully independent, we have never had a war like this.
Hmm.
It's always been a couple of weeks, little, we fire
Yeah,
miss, they fire missiles,
yeah.
we bomb them, that kind of thing. So this is totally different. So that's going on. Simultaneously, stuff with Egypt is going on for some kind of new control mechanism on the border between Egypt and Gaza. In my mind, the only effective mechanism for security is the IDF, is
Hmm.
Tzal, is our folks. So that's going on. Of course, the drama here in America relating to the upcoming elections, kind of, is crazy. And then with Netanyahu coming, or excuse me, he's here, but about to address Congress, you've got all these Democrats that are, boycotting it and seriously, I could care less. I
Yeah,
mean,
I agree. These people are irrelevant. And I want to make a statement regarding Netanyahu coming in. There was no, he was not greeted by the president, vice president, or secretary of state. Pretty much, oh yeah, he's there at the airport. Somebody send a cab, please. This is not the first time in history that Netanyahu or an Israeli prime minister has been dissed. This happens all the time. That they're not given the same dignitary welcome that others are. So, this is not just the Biden administration. This has happened over and over again.
yeah. Again, the reality is we in Israel, um, as I've said repeatedly, we need to change our military leadership. We have been wedded for almost 25 years to a failed strategy
Mhm.
of having a small but smart army. That actually was the terminology used. And tied in with that, I've mentioned over a few weeks that we have a real manpower crisis.
Hmm.
And I came down very hard on the Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox community. There was a fascinating piece in the Times of Israel yesterday relating to the fact that, and I've alluded to this, but I didn't have the numbers, and this morning I do, of those non-ultra-Orthodox, quote unquote, that have gotten exempted from military service. Now, okay, so these are numbers from 2021. These were presented in 2023. That 31.4% of those eligible for the draft that year did not draft, did not go in.
Okay.
31.4 out of the whole pool.
Hmm.
Out of those, only 17.6% were Haredi, were ultra-Orthodox, who declared that Torah was their profession. Okay, so you've got almost 14%. So again, we focus on the ultra-Orthodox, the Haredim, but that's 17%. We've got another 14% secular, or wrong term, non-ultra-Orthodox,
Hmm.
who've gotten some exemption. Among those, okay. And okay, in 2021, 45% of women who were eligible did not draft.
Hmm.
Now, Dati Leumi, national religious, Zionist women who, because of religious principles, don't serve in the army because it's not an Orthodox friendly environment,
Yeah, sure.
particularly for women. So they do Shirut Leumi, national service. But okay, let's leave this there for a second, because most of these exemptions are coming on mental health exemptions.
Hmm.
In other words, the parents, don't want, Shmulik or Dudu or Avrumale to go into the army and and have to do things. So they get a doctor to say he's schizophrenic.
Hmm.
And what's happening is once the war started, you have all these people who had been exempted who want to volunteer and do something now. They're overruling, Abba and Ima, and they want to go serve. And the army's saying, wait a second, if you were schizophrenic a year ago, you're still schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. What changed here?
okay. Here's okay. In 2023, 9,000 exemptions on mental health issues. 9,000. And the other thing is, I don't want people to think that the Haredi community does not serve. 1,800 Haredim on average per year volunteer for the army.
Okay.
1,800. But to me, this is the most damning statistic of all. In Tel Aviv, only 68% of those eligible enter the army.
Wow.
Okay. And the city they contrasted it with was Modi'in. And Modi'in has over 90% of eligible men enter the army and 84% of eligible
Wow.
women enter the army. As I've shared in the past, Modi'in is the most patriotic city in all of Israel.
Well, and of course, for people that don't know the topography as well, this is the home of the Maccabees.
And Hanoch.
Yeah, and hold on, yeah, I'm not sure which one is really the total attributing force to this, whether it was the Maccabees being there then or you being there now. It's a toss
At
up.
this time, we don't know.
We'll
I,
let
I,
the listeners decide.
I can't tell you when I get up in the morning sometimes, I really feel like I came first and then the Maccabees in terms of chronology, but that's another story.
Yeah,
Um,
that's because you're
so
older. Yeah.
it's certainly starting to feel that way. So interestingly enough, um, as I've gone speaking from place to place, I find now, of course, someone asked me, am I encountering people who have negative feelings about Israel? And here's the bottom line. If a congregation of any kind, mainstream Christian denominations, messianic, whatever it might be, if they're not fully in with Israel, they're not going to invite me.
No.
So, I mean, listen, it is true when I was in Louisiana, I was heckled by someone in the audience, someone from their community. Um, Not a single one of the comments was intelligent, but neither here nor there. Um, so I'm not experiencing negativity. What I am exposed to is the fact that even the people most aligned with Israel, many are very, very poorly informed.
Mhm.
And it would almost be, if I could figure out some way to get them to watch things, I mean, I could record dozens of educational things, but they mean well.
Yeah.
And I just don't know what it is that's preventing people, because I encounter a lot of really bright people who have a lot of skills, who, when they want to do something, want to learn about something, they research it, they look on YouTube, they get all kinds of information and they put it together. When it comes to Israel, it's kind of more like rumor and innuendo.
Mhm. Let me throw my 2 shekels in on this one.
Please.
I think there is still this idea of America central to everything. America is the center of the world, and the mental and spiritual transformation of going from, and I'm using this phrase, "make Israel great again." That is a biblical principle. Um, and I mean, I could go into this a lot, but this is about a mindset, both both mentally and spiritually,
Right.
that America is not the center of the world, that Israel is the center. Barry Phillips, a mutual friend, you'll be seeing him in a few weeks, um, as I hand you off to him. But he said he quoted that verse of Israel is the pupil of his eye, and he said very appropriately, the Almighty is his focus, his gaze
Yeah.
is upon Israel, period. And anything else, anywhere else you are in the world, you are in his peripheral vision.
There's no doubt about it. Um, but there's another element. It's not just that first of all, they are American centric.
Mhm.
Um, okay, understandable. I mean, I don't agree.
Yeah,
You don't agree, but
yeah,
I understand it.
yeah, got it,
But
got it.
when people ask me incredulously, based on something I had said, wait a minute, are you saying there aren't American advisors working with the IDF? In other words,
Right.
that we would not be capable. I mean, seriously, I was stunned. And it just it kept going back and forth, and I kept saying, no, we're a sovereign country. We're not depending upon American military advice.
Yeah,
First of all, we're
it's,
fighting a war unlike anything that America has ever had to deal
yeah,
with
that
the top.
somehow America has this, uh, it- well, give you an example. When I first started going to Israel, I would come back and people would ask me, well, are they driving cars? They thought that we were getting
Camels.
around on our tour on donkeys and camels.
Yeah,
I'd show pictures. They're like, there's buildings there.
yeah.
That somehow you guys have just gotten out of the Stone Age or something. This is the mentality that we deal with,
Okay.
and
You're
and the same
you're
thing holds
absolutely right.
true with America. there's a verse I quote very often in Jeremiah of I know the plans I have for you, for plans for good and not for evil, to give you a future and hope. In that same chapter is the verses of you're to do good in the place that I have sent you to.
Right.
So we are to be a blessing where we are, no matter where we are, but at the same time, we're not to forget where we're really from.
That's perfect.
And this is
Yeah.
probably what I'm going to be doing over in Battlefield in Rossville, Georgia, with you, is a message I've done many years ago on the definition of home. If we don't know the definition of home, life is going to be messed up, totally
There's
and
an
completely.
there's an additional element that I'm encountering. It's the viewing of Israel through the American lens.
Okay, yeah,
And this came up with a person who brought up the issue of that we in Israel need to be more like America and having a Second Amendment right that we should all be able to have weapons. Okay. Now, and then she said, and what happened in Gaza would not have occurred. So I said, okay, time out. I said, first of all, are you aware that all of the communities around Gaza were fully armed? Okay. Now, we did have a problem in that the Gazan workmen, the good Gazans, I feel nauseous saying that,
yeah.
who would come in and do the gardening and the other work, drew diagrams of where the armories were in each of the communities. But because people don't know, see, Mike, as you know, people haven't been to Israel like you. They haven't brought as many groups ever as you. They're not intimately involved. So, having said that about guns and the Second Amendment, and everyone's like, yeah, yeah, let's go down to the Israeli Walmart and buy and then we can go to the Israeli Costco and buy big weapons. Okay,
Which, by the way, you don't have either one of those. I got
no,
that.
we don't. Don't we? We no, we don't. But here's the issue: make it so every Israeli citizen, every Israeli adult citizen could buy a weapon, right? Okay, take off. We have 1.5 million Israeli Arab
Mhm.
citizens. We don't have discriminatory laws. So
Mm.
if they make it that I could walk into any store and buy a gun, so could Ahmed and Omar. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. The situation
our
in
reality
Israel,
is different.
the situation in Israel is much more complicated than, for as small as you guys are landmass, you're much more complicated than anywhere else in the world. Because things that just,
Very true.
statements like that of, you guys need the Second Amendment, it doesn't work there. And the problem you mentioned of going there and people, on tours, as well as anybody else does, that most tours do not give you information like this. Most tours,
No,
it's there's no real way. I can't think of an analogy right now, but many people go to experience Israel and don't. They go to connect with Israel and don't. It's kind of like going to a zoo and you go from cage to cage and you look at the name and it's like, oh wow, that's a cool looking monkey. Let's go on to the next cage. Uh, you know, Millions of people go to the zoo, nobody buys it.
yeah,
Millions of people go, they're you're not even petting the animals really.
okay. Someone asked me, I mean, when I see you in person shortly, I will share some of the questions
Yeah.
that I got, which, really, but
And
someone
no,
said,
folks, we do not have a recorder in my truck, so it's
no, no, I mean, and I will allow you to suggest which ones you think I should share publicly, on future Israel updates. But
well, this should be fun.
yeah, someone said to me, And you know, it's interesting because they had some information. They said, so you've had this birthright program for years. So you know, that brings young Jewish men and women, let's say college age approximately, to Israel for a 10-day free party. They didn't say party, I did.
Mhm.
I have never guided a birthright group because having raised my two daughters, I don't want to raise someone else's kids.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be on whole patrol in the hotel, staying up all night, you know, keeping the groups apart. Okay. So she said, why don't more of them come to Israel? Now, some do. Some do. Some come on Aliyah, some come as lone soldiers. It's absolutely true. But I gave my personal example. I went to Israel when I graduated high school. I was 16 years old. That summer, I turned 17, and I came back 7.5 weeks in Israel. And again, you know, I had no peer groups back home. I, you know, had that Irish Catholic neighborhood where they all hated me. And my father, alav hashalom, a blessed memory, just last week was 40 years since he passed
Mm.
away. That the first question he asked me after hugging me when I landed at Kennedy Airport was, do you want to live in Israel? And my response was no.
Mm.
I mean, I was a kid. I was 17 years old, starting college in another month. Heck, my priority was having a girlfriend, a girl that would hold my hand in public. This is like, you know, I'm a little socially backward. I admit it. Be the first to admit it. But this is so sending, and that was 7.5 weeks. Sending college age folks for 10 days and expecting it to change every aspect of their life where they've never had a Jewish education, where they've never been involved, not everyone, in Jewish religious life, where they have no connection to anything. What are you going to do in 10 days?
Well, I want to answer that question because I've been around them.
Yeah.
What they actually do in 10 days. All right. Hey, we're running out of time, but let me
Okay.
ask you, Ben Gavir, going up to the Temple Mount,
Yeah.
how, you know, how earth
Okay.
shattering is that? Is it
Okay.
I've seen it in a few news articles. So,
Okay. Ideologically, there are many aspects of Ben Gvir, Itamar Ben Gvir, that I agree with. Personally, I think he's an absolute clown.
mm,
This guy who never served in the army,
okay.
who just says out, so barely 5 o'clock in the morning here, I'm looking at the news, and he's gone up on the Har HaBayit on the Temple Mount before. Great.
Yeah.
Making a big deal publicly, as he did a flippant remark, that we regularly have Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount, which we do, which I am intimately involved with,
Yeah.
which is the focus of my life right now. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have thrown out a remark like that because now there's going to be a firestorm on what is actually going on the Temple Mount before we have enough time to create a mass consensus supporting Jewish prayer.
So this could actually backfire and put you back into the place that you were before October 7th regarding
Yeah.
the extreme difficulty for Jews to get on the Temple Mount, the possibility of being kicked off at any moment,
Yeah.
not being able to kneel unless you're pointing at a rock, inside joke, not being able to pray, any of those things. This could actually take you back to that point.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was a stupid thing for his own, benefit. He could have just said, like, I went and I did. But it's
Yeah.
well, I'm in charge of the police. I mean, this guy, I said he's a clown.
Yeah.
And those who know me and know Israeli politics, particularly people that I associate with in Israel, can't understand why I feel that way about him. But it reminds me when we used to do, okay, there was an organization which you know of, many of our listeners will never have heard of it, called the Temple Mount Faithful.
Exactly.
And they would do two big events a year.
Hmm.
One is this they'd have, people they're going to lay the cornerstone of the third temple, and or they would be bringing, Baba black sheep, we're going to slaughter, the
Yeah.
now what they did not do is they did not do what we from High in the Har do, and Beyadenu and other groups, I was about to say legitimate groups, no filters in Colorado.
Or
They don't
anywhere else.
they didn't go up regularly to pray. They didn't go and assert the Jewish
Yeah.
presence to reestablish sovereignty. They went for publicity things. Ben Gvir is about publicity.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Boy, you just brought back a lot of memories there. Because Gershon Solomon, who was
Yeah.
Simple Mount Faithful,
Yep.
was actually in our home when we were in Colorado, and did a conference with us there. And I began the meeting that night with the sounding of the shofar, and Gershon got all excited, and he said, this was just weeks away from their parade of the cornerstone that
Yeah.
they had done. And he said, I want you to come over and sound the shofar as we parade the cornerstone. And I couldn't get free. I mean, it was like, what a great experience that would have been. But
Oh man.
things you
We'll
can't
we'll
do
have
in
to
life.
we'll have to plan something, Mike, you and I, to top that. Don't worry. I've got ideas.
I may get you a cab to come up here because I don't know if I want to hear those.
It sounds
All
great.
right.
All
Well,
right,
folks,
man.
appreciate everyone who supports our ministry, supports Hanok. You make these things possible. You make the speaking tours possible. You make all that we do possible. And I just want to say thank you for that. And also for those that put comments, whether it's on Vimeo or YouTube or Rumble or Dog Sled or whatever it is. Um, you put comments, you hit like. Those things drive the analytics.
Yeah.
And if people could, I mean, I
Yeah,
know
please.
I know I'm
Please.
asking for 10 seconds of your life, but hitting a like is wonderful. Putting a comment in there or sharing it
Yeah.
is what really helps us out with that. So
Agreed.
only other thing is, guys, understand, I'm going to be locked in a car over the next 10 days with Hanok I've already counted it up, and I think it's in excess of about 10 to 12 hours. I would covet your prayers, please.
And the best part is people think you're kidding. That's the best part.
That's
They
right.
think this is all a joke.
Yeah,
It's not.
I'm not joking.
No. All
All
right,
right,
man.
buddy.
See you
Looking forward
tomorrow.
to seeing you at the Atlanta airport. Stay out of trouble, please.
I certainly will.
And I'll see you at the curb
Take care, man. Bye-bye.
later.